You're watching Business World Live. I'm Danie Laurel. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today, Monday. You can see on my terminal here, the PSEi was actually the worst performer in Asia. We are still, of course, on that Omicron threat watch. Edser Trinidad of First Metro Asset, who was our guest this morning, did mention be prepared for volatility. And in fact, you can see, however, on the chart that the index declined as much as 3.8%. That was the most since August 3rd. But eventually, we cut these losses to 1.1%. So there was some bargain hunting there. The reopening stocks, you've got the likes of restaurants, the likes of super department stores, rather train operators, travel shares. They were the ones amongst the biggest decliners in Asia. Bloomberry Resorts, Robinson's Retail, they were among the losers. Bloomberry fell almost double digit in the first part of the session. Each of them ended up with the losses of more than 4.6%. Ayala Corporation down 4.5%. Metro Bank was down 5.4%, the most in 9 months. And of course, our restaurateur Jollibee down by 6.1%. That was the most in 15 weeks. Meanwhile, on the other side, you do have Pure Gold and of course Robinson's Retail, which still have supermarkets there gaining here. Converge as well, telco player. A lot of work from home might be occurring yet again, and they have also been the best performer, up by more than 6%. I did want to take a look at one specific stock that, apart from the fact that it's the issue of this Omicron was also in focus here, and that is Monde, because they fell by as much as 5% this trading day. That's on the back of the IPO lockup expiring, and that released around 10.5 billion pesos worth of shares that are now up for trade. The stock had risen more than 30% since its IPO price till Friday, and now quite some profit taking there. Now, despite, of course, this scare and what has happened in our bourse, the worst performer in Asia, what we can see, however, is that investors are trying very much to work out whether, of course, these scares that are happening will be something that we will be rebounding from, or will be a bigger blow to the global economic recovery. And you can see the futures here, on the left part, which is actually a mix of green and red, not completely red naman, particularly in the US. The US equity futures are positive looking, crude oil as well going up, and that has brought some calm to the markets. And when you take a look at the Asia Pacific close, they did fall, but those moves were modest compared to Friday's global equity sell-off. The one that was really in focus today was Japan. That was down by 1.7% after, of course, the government shut down its borders to visitors. And, as I mentioned, oil as well did bounce back, and you can see that up by $3.16 per barrel, trading at above $71. And finally, just a quick check on the currency space and how we are actually doing. We are actually in the green this morning, strengthening. Of course, we've been weakening already since last week. This despite, of course, the flight to safe havens, with the dollar gauge ending stronger. Now let's check in on the other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. Some Indian companies, including those from the pharmaceutical industry, are keen on investing in economic zones here in the Philippines. India Business Forum President Dilip Tiwari said some of their members have shown interest in investing in ecozones. Just yesterday, Tiwari signed a memorandum of understanding with PSEi Director General Ching Plaza, pledging IBF support in promoting the Philippines' economic potential to the Indian investors. Now, for its part, PSEi will help IBF in maximizing its business opportunities in the country's economic zones. Plaza says there are currently 29 Indian locator companies in the Philippines with a total investment of 10.3 billion pesos as of September. Now, prices of noche buena items have started climbing ahead of the holidays. Now, as of today, items typically served during Christmas dinner like ham, queso de bola, cheese, and sandwich spread have seen a 5 to 12% increase in prices. Food items like pasta and macaroni, fruit cocktail, and all-purpose cream are also affected by the price hike. On the bright side, some brands decided not to increase the prices of their products. The DTI says they urged manufacturers to leave the prices of some Noche Buena items unchanged this holiday season as the pandemic continues to affect Filipinos. And the government is already bracing for a worst case scenario following the emergence of the Omicron variant overseas. Acting Palace spokesperson Carlo Nograles says the country is ready to implement more local and granular lockdowns should an Omicron variant case be detected here in the country. Nograles notes that studies are ongoing to find out the vaccine's effectiveness in fighting the new variant of concern, but he assures the public that the Omicron variant is unlikely to be fully resistant to vaccines. Though the highly mutated variant has yet to be detected in the country, health experts say it won't be surprising if Omicron reaches Philippine shores. Octa research member Professor Dido David told One News that the variant may enter the country by February, saying previous variants found their way to the Philippines a few months after they were detected abroad. Experts are now calling on the public to be more vigilant and the government to heighten its surveillance measures. All economists are scrambling to understand to what extent the projections need to be once again reassessed. And here to weigh in, we have with us Dan Roces, AVP and Chief Economist of Security Bank. Good morning, Sir Dan, and welcome back.
Hi, Danie. Good day.
Dan, it's been a topsy-turvy of past few days, this starting since Friday. Of course, not too great for economists like you, which have already just done reassessments of everything, and now we need to have this. But, then again, it's part of it, diba? You've already seen waves like this before. We've always been told, we can't be sure 100%. We've already been seeing cases surging even before this Omicron variant. So, to what extent are you worried, so to speak, that this new variant will have an impact on the economy, given that we've already managed them on previous variants?
Well, the worry is, there's still a lot of uncertainties that were um, factored into, no, regarding with regards to the rebound. No, the NEDA did flag the possibility of newer variants cropping up, no, and now we're seeing one. No? Um, and At the start of the news about Omicron, it essentially loomed large in the markets. It already caused some pretty big moves in the stock exchanges and other indicators of growth, no? Like the price of oil, which plummeted 10% in the biggest one-day fall since the early days of the pandemic. No? It happened last Friday. And until studies are clear on how transmissible this is, or how resistant it could be to vaccines, no? It just threatens to reverse the recent gains, just as travel and economic activity were beginning to recover. So far, what we're seeing in the markets indicate Delta-like interruptions. No? It doesn't mean that that is Delta-like transmission.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm referring to is interruptions to the markets, despite no clear news yet as to the evolution of the new variant.
Okay, let's say that there's a possibility, and this has been highlighted even by Sec Nograles, that we
Mhm.
might be having possibly return to lockdowns. If this does reach our shores, there are going to be, of course, things that need to be done. To what extent are we prepared for that? Can the economy afford that? Just workers, etc. Have we become agile enough to be able to, work from home, have social distancing measures, be able to go and do our retail, especially since we already had that experience with the Delta variant.
Yeah, if the third quarter is any indication, I think we are more agile about it. No? And I think we're more confident in the sense that probably this time around there are more people uh, who has gotten the vaccine. No, compared that with the onset of Delta. No? By in July of 2021, there were only 4% of the adult population fully vaccinated. No? At the end of the third quarter, it was 21%. Right now, we're at 53%. No? So, in a way, that gives some sense of confidence in terms of being able to withstand this newer variant, no, if it spreads. No? The hope, of course, is that it's still resistant to the current vaccines that we've been receiving.
Okay. On the government end, does the government have the funding for another lockdown?
On the government end, I think, yeah, well, today is the start of the 3-day vaccine drive. So that's very timely in the sense that we could probably accelerate the government still targets 90% of the adult population to get fully vaccinated by the end of this year. The best case scenario at the moment, if you take a look at the pace of vaccination, is probably end of January. And the base case that we have is around March to May. No? So I would say that they are prepared this time around. Governments all around the world, um, especially those who are instituting lockdowns this early, that's already an offshoot to what we experienced during Delta.
Okay, and how about, our budget deficit and
Mhm.
ballooning offshore debt? I
Mhm.
mean, to what extent do we still have leeway to have more debt if we need to fund, more ayuda,
Yeah.
healthcare system needs to still be revamped dramatically, of course.
Okay. Yeah. That's something probably that governments all over the world weren't really prepared to deal with. No? Uh, the deficit is worrisome. If you take a look at the levels where we are now, but we are not alone in that aspect. No? A lot of governments are already um, at very high levels, um, and of course, one way to manage the deficit is to be able to have some semblance of rebound or recovery. No? So that narrows the deficit quite a lot. No? Um, I would expect probably that the budget that uh, our government is formulating for next year is also flexible enough to be reinstituted once again if the need arises. No? Hopefully it doesn't, but I think that it could be that it's ready to be repurposed once again, like what we
Mm.
saw in 2020 and 2021, Biennial 1, Biennial 2. No? So um, um, we should have learned already,
Okay.
from the past events that we have seen.
Looking short term, we're closing in on Christmas. Will the
Hmm.
holiday spending frenzy continue? Will people still be able to, I mean, Okta had said that, it will be okay until at least February. Do you
Hmm.
feel that people will, stop going to malls, stop going out? Or is it that we are actually, like, there's revenge spending going on, there's revenge travel?
Hmm.
People might be even doing it more now that, there's an impending lockdown.
Yeah, well, I think there could be just a shift towards more online spending rather than the physical spending that we've been seeing lately. No, it's as if people were really cooped up for so long, no, that they wanted to just go out and do their spending physically. No, but um, we did that in the third quarter. And one of the biggest numbers, surprising numbers to come out of the third quarter GDP was the increase in household consumption, no, despite the lockdowns that we saw in August. No? So I would think, despite the fact that it's better to spend the holidays outside, no, that it wouldn't really curtail investment in the meantime, no, until uh, you know um, we get clearer indications of how transmissible or how dangerous the new variant could be.
Mhm. What about the travel bans? Is the economy severely impacted by that? We've been on a travel ban. We've had these issues. We were just about to welcome foreign tourists finally, but it seems
Hmm.
that we've gone without them for quite some time. We were trying to bank on the domestic economy. So will
Hmm.
these travel issues have an impact?
You're right. I think the strategy is to bank on domestic economy, domestic tourism in the meantime. No? I wouldn't be too worried about its impact towards international tourism because we haven't really recovered there yet. Um, Tourist arrivals haven't really gotten to the pre-pandemic levels. Um, I would be more worried if our economy is more dependent towards tourism from European visitors and also from the South African countries. No, we're not. So probably the impact there could be less severe than what we might expect.
Mhm.
Domestic tourism could likely go down, no, because of course there's going to be some fear in traveling, but I don't think it's going to be impacted as much.
Last question before we let you go. I know it's
Sure.
impossible to give a forecast and all these things, but
Mhm.
we're closing in on the fourth quarter now. So
Mhm.
hopefully in that 1 month na lang, will we be able to still reach the government's growth targets of 4 to 5%?
I think so. No, our estimate for full year is 5.1%. We're still holding on to that estimate. No, right now what we are seeing is like some emotional reaction to
Mm.
coming from Delta. No? So, but despite that, no, like I said earlier, there was growth in the third quarter. No? So we're expecting the same
Okay.
uh, in this fourth quarter.
All right. Thank you so much for those insights. Indeed, though, waiting on bated breath for more developments. But as it
Right.
happens, we do have some in our arsenal to be able to prepare us in the worst case scenario. Thank you so much, Chief Economist of Security Bank, Robert Roces.
Welcome.
And those are the biggest stories this trading day, November 29, 2021. Catch Business World live tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Danie Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.